Hey.
Hip, hip, hooray! Hip, hip, hooray! Hip, hip, hooray!
Hello, everybody. I'm Natalie, and this is Scientology Life After a Cult. Today, we're going to talk about Scientology leader David Miscavige and how he is leading the way, leading Scientology and its efforts to exploit the vulnerable, from children and the elderly to asylum seekers. Disturbing reports continue to emerge, exposing Scientology's efforts to exploit the vulnerable for their own good. Shocker, right? There is a protester in New York who's doing more personality tests than Scientology themselves, but he's educating people along the way about why Scientology is a cult and how not to fall into that trap. We have that and so much more that we're going to be talking about today. Welcome, everybody in the live chat. Great to see you. Big thank you to the members for being here and your continued support. We are doing a members only live Tuesday, 4 p.m. Central. If that time changes, I will let you know. Thank you for your support as members. If you're interested in becoming a member of the channel, there's a link down below in the description of this video, or you can hit the join link on the channel as well. All right, let's jump into it. Let's start off with, I can't think of a better way to kick off a Monday. Actually, to be honest, I can think of 100 better ways to kick off a Monday. But we're going to do it here. Aloha, everybody. Thank you for the alohas and hellos in the chat as you all come in. I appreciate that. Okay, y'all. You're never going to believe, although I think you can all guess, who is made the top of the 33 most hated actors in 2024. One guess. I bet most of you get it. I'm going to share this story, but throw your answer up there in the live chat. And if you're on the replay, participate and jump in. I want to hear from you too. Who do you think is the number one voted most hated actor in 2024? Seriously, it's the gift that keeps on giving. It is Tom Cruise himself. Take a look at this.
These are the 33 most hated actors of 2024, starting with Tom Cruise, who is hated for 6 main reasons. First is his deep involvement with Scientology, a controversial religion that's more secretive than a classified government document.
I love too that the number one reason Tom Cruise is hated is because of Scientology and his connection to Scientology.
Cruise has become the face of Scientology, and many people feel uneasy about his zealous promotion of it. His infamous 2005 interview with Matt Lauer, where he called psychiatry a pseudoscience.
That is something he will never live down. When you go out publicly and you call psychiatry a pseudoscience, especially as a Scientologist, you're basically saying like, oh yeah, the legitimate form of mental health therapy that everybody pretty much knows and aware of is a pseudoscience. That's the same conversation when he got into slamming Brooke Shields. So it is no surprise at all why Tom Cruise is the most hated actor in 2024. Honestly, I'm just like, yeah, saw that coming. Will he care? Will it change anything? No, I doubt it. But for now, Tom Cruise leads the way as the most dedicated Scientologist, which in my mind, that means if he is the most dedicated Scientologist and the best friend of David Miscavige, that means he is second in command of leading the charge in taking advantage of the vulnerable. That is the way I see it. Now, speaking of taking advantage of the vulnerable, we shared this story the other day about how Scientology, we got to wake up the Office of Special Affairs early in this video because there's a lot they need to know about. I want to make sure that Scientology doesn't miss tracking any of the negative press. David Miscavige, wake up your people. Office of Special Affairs, it's Monday. Okay, here's the deal. We're going to get into the 411 here. Your statistics, one of them is tracking negative press, right? Is it by minutes? If it's inches of negative press, if it's printed. There's so much out there, and I really want to make sure. We touched on this story the other day, but there's more information coming out, so we're going to talk about it more because I am here for you, the Office of Special Affairs. I want to make sure you miss nothing, that you're tracking all of the negative press about Scientology. I'm just trying to help you with your statistics. Help me help you. So what do we got? We're talking about an article here. Scientology recruits asylum seekers in Dublin, promising them help with refugee status. So We touched on this the other day, but there are some very specific anecdotes coming out here. Stories in here. Controversial. Church says it has never advised asylum seekers on refugee applications after migrants receive certificates for volunteering with group. And now, if it were me, I'd have put volunteering in quotes, but I didn't write the article. It looks a little funky because it was behind a paywall, so I had to put it in this website to try and get around it. He said I'd get a certificate that would help me with my refugee status. Right there. I'm like, what? It just says it right there. Like you're telling people that this would help. He also agreed to set up a Crooksling Scientology WhatsApp group to help recruit other Arabic-speaking asylum seekers in the camp. Up to 200 asylum seekers subsequently joined the group. So Scientology gets a hold of one guy, gets him to create a WhatsApp group because he has to translate for all these Arabic-speaking people who are asylum seekers, who are very vulnerable. Half the people in Crooksling don't speak English, so I had a chance to be translator for them. I told them the same thing I'd been told, that this would help their refugee status, he said. For 2 months, Ishtia, I do believe that's his name, and I may be saying it wrong, he rounded up between 30 and 50 men twice a week who were bussed into Dublin city center to hand out anti-drug leaflets to passerbyers. So you guys know that's the Foundation for a Drug-Free World. Those are the anti-drug booklets that Scientology puts out. Dublin city center. Okay, so they hand these out. And at the end of the day, the men receive certificates of participation, a document they believed which would help them with their asylum claim. Ishtia recalled how the same two Scientology members always met them outside Crooksling on the bus, dropped the group off, and collected them later in the day. They also took photos of participants before and after the leaflet drop. So again, Scientology picking these people up and photographing them before and after. Many participants spoke no English, but were still given booklets to distribute. Some treated the whole excursion as a joke. Some of them didn't even hand them out. They just threw them in the bin and then picked up the certificate, he said. And you know what? I applaud that. However, others were keen to get involved and participated in a human rights open day. You guys remember there was a Scientology propaganda press release. I remember sharing it about, and I remember thinking, I've not seen Scientology do this in Dublin to have, like a human rights day, or at least it had been a long time. And now it makes sense. It was called Nelson Mandela Day, and it brought people from all around Dublin together. Somalis, Nigerians, Jordanians, Palestinians. We got certificates for that day too. One afternoon, a group of men were brought to the church for training in maintaining eye contact with another, he said. They gave us a booklet about it, said it's better for people when handing out leaflets. One man said, I've done 4 months of cleaning with no pay, and sometimes you think you should be paid, but I don't get annoyed. I just see it as a way of being kind and trying to help. See, these people don't know about Scientology being a human trafficking cult, but I'm sure they're finding out, because it does sound like there is upset there that they are being used and exploited to hand out this Scientology propaganda information. Ishtia started feeling uneasy when church representatives suggested he give English classes to other asylum seekers on their premises, but without tongue-tied and twisted. Okay, squirrel. Remuneration. They offered him accommodation if he accepted the role, he said. So, where accommodation, where'd they put him up? I wonder where they put him up. So they wanted one of them to give English classes to the asylum seekers. Now, if it were any other group and organization, I'd be like, hey, that's fantastic. Help them learn English. But this is Scientology we're talking about, and they don't do anything unless it forwards their own means and purposes. Another day, he was brought to Fur House and asked to clean the church for 8 hours without food, he said. And remember, Scientology. So I've hit my limit of saying church in reference to Scientology moving forward. they will now be referred to as the cult of Scientology, even if the article doesn't say that, because I start twitching if I have to say Church of Scientology too many times. I thought they would pay me that day, but they didn't. Remember, this guy worked 8 hours cleaning. They said it was volunteering. 8 hours of volunteering? I don't need that. The cult of Scientology has a long history of attempting to gain a foothold in Irish society, often using front groups with innocuous sounding names such as Drug Free World or the Citizens Commission on Human Rights. In some cases, these groups hide their connection to Scientology, which they do. And can we talk about that for just a minute? These front groups hide their connection to Scientology. Meanwhile, over on Scientology's own website, it lists the front groups right on there and shares that they were started by Scientology. So I don't know what to tell people in these front groups. You running around acting like y'all ain't got nothing to do with Scientology. Meanwhile, Scientology's oh yeah, we started that. That's us. That's ours. But Scientologists at these front groups are always trying to distance themselves like, no, we are not Scientologists. We saw that happen with Dan Walks LA not that long ago. That lady outside Citizens Commission on Human Rights. No, this is not Scientology. No, I am not a Scientologist. I don't even know what you're talking about. Cue to cut to the next video where she's outside the blue buildings with her e-meter case and confidential materials going into services at Scientology. So whatever, we see right through you. We see what's up. Scientology has been variously described as a religion, cult, and in several countries, a scam. It teaches that man is immortal and that traumatic events in a person's life can only be cured by an often expensive process known as auditing. In the past, it has attracted many high-profile supporters, including Hollywood actor Tom Cruise. However, its membership has dwindled in recent years. Scientology's founder, science fiction writer L. Ron Hubbard, opened an office in Dublin in 1956, just 2 years after founding the organization. That's also not long after L. Ron Hubbard was involved in Aleister Crowley's sex cult. Let's not forget about that. Right before releasing Dianetics, let's not forget about that. Right before releasing Dianetics in 1950, L. Ron Hubbard was hanging out with Jack Parsons, practicing Aleister Crowley's black magic, trying to impregnate a woman and have her give birth to the Antichrist. So this is something Scientologists don't know, by the way, just so you know. They don't know this. So if you're thinking, how can anybody stay in Scientology after knowing that? They don't know. Scientology has their own narrative saying that L. Ron Hubbard infiltrated this black magic sex cult and rescued a woman from it. Now he stole Jack Parsons' girlfriend and money and took off. So don't get it twisted, Scientology. We know what's up. In 2017, the group opened a large center in Fir House, Dublin, which frequently hosts free concerts and family events. In other words, recruitment for Scientology. It regularly carries out litter cleanups and has distributed large amounts of literature to schools around the country. Now, it goes into even talk about how Scientology is trying to insert itself into Irish schools. Critics and anti-cult activists have accused Scientology of attempting to infiltrate Irish society by stealth. The goal, they say, is to legitimize itself and shed its image as a predatory organization that brainwashes and extorts money from members. What's clear, because they're based here in Fir House, is they're trying to extend their reach into all aspects of community, volunteering and manipulating people in order to do that, said Alan Edge, an independent counselor for South Dublin County Council. Oh, look at that. They got a pretty big building there in Dublin. I've been aware at firsthand of their attempt to infiltrate drug and alcohol task force. They've been prevented from doing this because of our serious concerns that their practices may be harmful. So these people know what's up. I'm going to link the article down below. There's quite a bit more of it. We're not going to read the whole thing because time. But you guys, it's like, again, Scientology at the front of whether it's a natural disaster, a disaster, asylum seekers, the elderly, whatever it is, seems to just get right in there and find a way to exploit them and get them to work free for Scientology. It's so disgusting, so disgusting. Hello to everybody else just coming in here. Make sure y'all hula on over to that like button and give it a little tap. Jump into the chat as well. All of those things helps us to get out notifications. Or supposedly, so I hear. Okay, so literally Serge was on another YouTube channel, a much larger YouTube channel. So this reached a ton of people and it's in Spanish. So wanted to bring awareness to this. I'm going to link it down below because sharing content for a Spanish speaking audience is very key. And I get really excited when I see more of this happening and more too, even in other languages. We've got Et voila, Brigitte, who is speaking French. She's also doing some German and she's sharing Scientology content. And so I think this is fantastic. We'll give it a little listen. I'm going to just share a little clip.
Fueron seducidos a entrar a esta secta, a firmar un contrato de 1 billón de años. Tú estás siendo seleccionado. Nosotros hablamos a mucha gente, pero a muy pocas escogemos.
Now, because I don't speak Spanish, I don't know a lot of what he said, but I got that it's a cult part in there. So linking that down below, super cool that he's able to do that and do it in Spanish because let's be real, Scientology is like going next level on targeting the Hispanic community, especially in Los Angeles. We see him do this at multiple Scientology organizations. They lend their space because it's empty and nobody's there, let's be real. But, one prop I got to give to Scientology is their spaces, they look pretty good. And they keep them clean, and it's a venue that they lend out for people to reunite families, and then they claim that they had something to do with it. We've been seeing this over and over and over again and seeing how Scientology is trying to recruit the Hispanic community. We saw in North Hollywood, a Scientology organization holding a modeling event where you could come and learn to walk and model, and they were recruiting for Scientology. So it's young girls showing up to this. It just left and right, and they're really going heavy on non-English speaking communities. But the word is getting out in these different languages, and I'm loving it. Angry in Texas. OMG, I gotta check that out. My Spanish, though, is muy malo. I'm assuming that means not good. That's right, Bina, spread the world. I am loving this. Lisa says, he said that they speak a lot of people, but choose few. They talk to a lot of people, but they choose few. The motto of the Sea Org is many are called, few are chosen. Because they're basically saying not everybody has what it takes to make it in the Sea Organization. And of course they don't, because it's a human trafficking, abusive cult. So it would be natural that people don't succeed in that environment, that they don't thrive in an environment that is culty. In fact, in my interview I did with Mike Brown not long ago, you can find it on my channel, he was comparing what it was like being in the Sea Organization to being in the United States military, because Mike Brown now flies Chinook helicopters and is also an instructor. So Scientology's whole thing of trying to make it sound like the Sea Organization and being on staff, it's just like super cool and you're just one of the most elite and powerful if you can do it. No, it just means that they're able to indoctrinate you to put up with a bunch of BS. Mike Brown in that video shared how in the Army, for example, when Mike Brown's helicopter got shut down over Afghanistan, harrowing story, by the way, you should check it out. He shares a couple stories and we even share some video in that interview. Nancy, can you do me a favor and throw up a link to that, the Mike Brown interview that we just did? Thank you. So what was my point with that? Oh, yes. So Mike Brown was sharing when he got shot down in a helicopter, how mental health services were provided like right away. And he and other people who were on the helicopter were even given the opportunity to leave, to move on to something else. And that's amazing because here's this traumatic near-death experience. And even the military is making sure that, hey, let's support these people because what they're doing is difficult. What they're doing is traumatizing. Let's support them in doing it. What Scientology is doing with the Sea Organization is traumatizing their members on a daily basis, holding them to impossible quotas, holding them to impossible achievements because Scientology is a human trafficking cult and people just aren't down with that. but no support from a mental health point of view, nothing valid. In fact, they want to destroy any valid form of mental health. So the differences are really, really amazing in how damaging Scientology takes it. And even something like serving in the military, it's known, hey, you got to support your people. This is hard on them and their families. And there's so many nonprofits and organizations too outside of the military that exist to support our servicemen and women doing what they do. And then look at Scientology. No, no, no. And we're going to look at some more examples of that. In fact, we're going to look at a clip of an interview from Mike Brown with his mother, Rosemary, who's elderly and speaks on and against elder abuse in Scientology. But before we get over to that, let's go to New York, you guys. Let's go to New York where Manning 8 was. And Manning 8 was outside Scientology in New York, doing little personality tests. This dude did more personality tests than Scientology, that's for sure, even though they're trying to get people in. He has stopped multiple people from walking into Scientology because they've got that curious sign out there. And a lot of people are like, oh, what is this? They're cruising, they're tourists in New York, and he lets them know what's what. So he had stopped multiple people and had conversations with them about the personality test. But also, the cool thing is he was like telling them the truth about Scientology as well. So take a look at this. I thought this was so much fun and a great way to spread awareness.
Okay, it's just 10 easy questions and then one bonus question. And you can just answer yes, no, or maybe. It's really easy. Okay? Do you make comments that you regret later?
Of course I do.
Okay. Well, very honest. I like that straightforward approach.
I even got arrested for one.
What's that?
I even got arrested for making a comment.
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, we should have freedom of speech here at least. Are your actions considered unpredictable by others?
Yes.
Okay. Do other people interest you?
Yes.
All right. Is your life a constant struggle?
No.
Oh, thank God. We were saying a lot of yes there. Do you often sing or whistle?
No.
No.
What?
Yeah.
Okay, it's just 10 easy questions and then one bonus question. And you can just answer yes, no, or
So the cool thing is he let each of them know too, like, hey, here's the deal. This is what they're doing in Scientology, and let them know. And he was even helping out tourists. This was so cute. Watch what happened with this woman.
Oh, yeah.
yeah, you seem like a really nice lady and you care about other people. So this is the test that they offer here if people walk in.
Nice.
And what happens though is it's not that nice. You see these books? They'll tell you you're not quite right, and you have to buy one of these books, and that's the only way you're going to be okay.
Okay.
So then you spend $25 for the book, but you know what? It's not going to be enough. You'll need another book.
So notice too, at some point, who is that guy? Who is this person standing outside here? What does that say? Times Square security maybe just suddenly shows up and starts standing outside the Scientology location while he's out there.
Wow.
And then you have to take some courses.
Can you take a picture of me, actually?
Yeah.
It doesn't.
There we go.
Anywhere.
Then he even helps her with a photo so she can remember her time there in New York in Times Square. I just love that. Meanwhile, Scientology has some type of security person out there standing in front because nothing says welcome and we welcome all are welcome, like posting some type of security outside your building. Oh, it was so fantastic. He even spoke the amount of people, the number of people from all over the world in New York is truly amazing. So he gets to speak to people from all over the world. And the cool thing about that is they're going to take their experience and what they know, and they're going to share it and talk about it as well. So I think New York is such a great spot where so many different cultures and tourists and things and people come together where you can really get that message out. And what a story for them to go back to their home country and share as well. Oh, we were walking by in Scientology and turns out it's a cult and this guy was asking questions and all of the things. So that's Manning 8. You guys can find him here on YouTube. After this video, I'm going to link everything down below so you can go check out his video in full as well, because it is pretty cool. Now let's go over to Instagram where somebody reshared a video that came out a while ago, but it is a good reminder, and some of you may not have seen this, of how Scientology trains their staff to take your money. You might be wondering, what does a staff meeting in Scientology look like? What do they talk about? Taking your money. That's what they talk about. Taking your money. They do. Check this out. Let's see. Here we go.
Everybody has money access to it. I wish you could see.
So she's saying everybody has money or access to it. These are Scientology staff members here in a staff meeting.
I know that they're crying to you, and every new red falls from that.
I know they're crying to you, and every new reg falls for that. Okay, reg is registrar in Scientology. That is the person in charge of, you might have guessed, yes, taking your money.
I remember when I was as a new reg, I was regging someone for power.
And power is just a process, a level delivered in Scientology. And so she's saying basically, I was a registrar and I was trying to get this person to pay for this expensive Scientology service.
The lady said, you know, I don't have it. I said, well, I'll give it to you. They just cried for it, and I gave my hard-earned money to them. Oh, right. Because I didn't know that people say they don't have money when they do.
So she somehow then gave them money. Did she lend them money to pay for that, for Scientology services? Because let's be honest, we have been hearing a lot about that, where Scientology will take a Scientologist or even a Sea organization member, especially the elderly, like Rosemary, Mike Brown's mom. We're going to see a clip in a little bit from her. And they jack up credit cards and get limits increased. And then they use those for other Scientologists. And usually somebody ends up defaulting. So sometimes what they'll do is they'll move that loan around from credit card to credit card so it can't be traced back where originally that money was. But I feel like credit card companies doing an investigation could figure this out. So I think it's kind of a moot point. But you can see how hard they work to get your money.
I didn't know that, right? But we're going to have to show you and prove it to you.
So she's basically saying, we're going to show and prove to you that Scientologists are lying to you about not having the money. So basically, it's a staff meeting of show me the money completely. Watch this.
I know you don't believe it. So here's what we're going to do. The soups, just bring your person.
And the soups are supervisor. So they're talking about the course room supervisor. The course room supervisor, their job is supposed to be delivering Scientology services, making sure the students have what they need, making sure they're not going by misunderstood words, getting them through their courses. But now in this particular staff meeting, they're all, hey, supervisors, bring your people to the registrar and we will take their money.
I don't care if rich, poor.
She doesn't care if they're rich or poor.
We don't care. You got to sit there, though. You've got to sit there while we go online and look up all their credit cards so we can show them to you.
Okay, did you hear that? Supervisor, bring your people to us and stick around because we're going to go online and we're going to pull up all their credit cards and we're going to show them to you. And we're going to show you how much money they have. In what world? And this is true. They do this. Can you imagine any other religion? I mean, this is just crazy. And this is the norm. Scientologists are indoctrinated to believe that the registrar is helping them. Help me help you. Show me the money. That's what every Scientology registrar is pretty much saying that is in their head. And they involve different staff members. If you're a course room supervisor and you're on a course room break and you're chatting with students because you get friendly and one shares, yeah, I'm a little down. Well, they wouldn't say I'm down, but they might say, oh, my dad passed away last week, but I'm sure he's already gotten a new body. I told him to go to Flag in that area and pick up another body, but the nice thing is I inherited $100,000. The supervisor, the course room supervisor, is now going to take that information to the registrar. Hey, Jenny over here, her dad died and she's going to inherit all this money and you can take it. And Joe over here just inherited some money because his grandma passed and they put it into a house, but they own the house. They don't owe any money, so they can refinance. They're bird dogging these leads to the registrar. This somehow becomes their job in Scientology. So the registrar can go on, look up everybody's credit card information and see how much money they actually have there. I mean, this is a Scientology staff meeting where they're talking about exactly this.
So you can see that your people definitely have.
Yeah. So you can show the supervisors, those students have money and they're lying to you because they have all this room on credit cards. Number one, Scientology, that's not having money. That's debt that you're going to put people in. That's not money that they have.
They just don't consider they do. But when we get done, they're like surprised. Sometimes they don't have it. Like we have.
So I'm going to link that down below too, if anybody would like to see that again, because you kind of get the gist there. That is how they operate. That is part of the exploitation. That is part of completely crossing boundaries and getting people to go into a ridiculous amount of debt for what? For what? For what? For clout. For Scientology clout. Because you want to be that International Association of Scientologists patron or above. You want to get up there with Nancy Cartwright, Tom Cruise, Rebecca Minkoff's family on donating ridiculous amounts of money to Scientology. I wonder if they do that to them. Something tells me no. Can you imagine? I doubt they're like running Tom Cruise's credit cards. But then again, maybe people who are really wealthy, they don't need to because they just, I bet even Scientology has rules around that. Not any registrar in Scientology can go ask Tom Cruise for money. I'll tell you that. Monica's saying they borrowed. So the Sea organization, many are called, few are chosen from the Bible. I think I heard that before. But yeah, that's what the Sea Org says. Many are called, few are chosen. Mock says, from what it looks like, Scientology targets the communities that wouldn't go into the pubs as a community center in Dublin. That does make sense. Yeah, I think you're right. Amber Vaness, who is a former Sea Organization member, says, being in the Sea Org was so hard. So much abusive stuff. They put their hands on you whenever they feel like it and call you names and get in your face. Horrible place. Yes, agreed. Julie Markham says, when I was curious as a teenager, I researched them in the library and got accurate information. That's always good to know. Scientology did this whole project multiple times with getting books into libraries, and librarians all over the United States and probably beyond. They were like sending boxes and boxes that they did not want. All these Scientology books. I should do a separate video about that because that was a crazy time. It's also a time when a lot of Scientologists left. Okay, so now let's move over and talk about a briefing that some Scientologists got recently about a public relations crisis concerning disconnection. This was a video over at Growing Up in Scientology. Let's look at a clip and we shall discuss.
They actually said at the meeting, the number one complaint that Scientology receives is about mothers not being able to speak with their children. That's an incredible thing for Scientology, any Scientology official to admit, especially to a group of Scientologists at what I will characterize as a public event. When I say it's a public event, I mean, this isn't a secret conversation that occurred in an office. Like this was an event meant for Scientologists, not just Sea Org members or staff members or anything like that. People, the doors were open is what I'm saying.
In my 35 years in this cult, had never been to a briefing where Scientology admitted that this is a big problem. It has always been a big problem. My former Scientologists here in the chat or on the replay, jump on in and tell me, did you? Because I know I did not in my 35 years. And since leaving Scientology, which I've been out of almost 15 years, we're going to celebrate on January 1st, because that's my 15-year anniversary of leaving this cult with 3 generations of my family. So I have not heard this communicated in this way. I mean, I would have been stopped in my tracks. I would have been shocked to hear Scientology admitting that the biggest problem they hear about are non-Scientology parents who have kids, whether if they're non-Scientology parents, they're probably adults at this point. Otherwise, how would they be there in Scientology and not having a relationship with their family? It just floored me. We're going to look at one more clip here too from that video. Check it out.
The desperation in terms of bad public relations, not even in terms of just membership, but bad public relations, that their priority as Scientologists with their non-Scientologist family members should be to just be a real family member and do family stuff. Do not talk about Scientology to them.
Okay, when I heard that, I was like, no way. I mean, we know that the number one rule in Scientology is don't talk about Scientology. But usually when someone's saying like, hey, Kirstie Alley, tell me about Scientology, read a book. Rebecca Minkoff, can you explain to us what Scientology is? What are the belief systems? Read a book. I mean, that is the response. Don't talk about them. Sell them a book. Not even give them a book. Sell them a book. Show them where they can go buy a book. So that they're saying this in a briefing with Scientology is very mind-boggling to me. And I need to hear your thoughts, you guys, because I couldn't believe this. Let's finish this clip and then get in the... You guys, tell me what you think about this in the chat and on the replay.
Now, anyone who's been in Scientology knows the policies about not creating antagonism with your family members, good roads, good weather with family members who have problems with Scientology. I've never heard anyone say or encourage Scientologists to don't talk about Scientology with your family members. Just focus on being a good family member and doing real family stuff. I love how they say real family stuff. The desperation in terms of bad public.
Okay, we got to talk about this because, again, that I'm aware of in my 35 years in this human trafficking cult called Scientology, I've never had that said to me. Now, granted, my family, the vast majority of my family were Scientologists, but not on my dad's side. Not on my family who are from Hawaii, on the Hawaiian side of my family, that, they weren't. And I was so young back then. I mean, they knew what I was doing, that I was a Scientology staff member, and they knew when I was working for Scientology, they knew we were Scientologists, but I never talked to them about it and they didn't ask too much about it. So this is really interesting because they've never taken this route before. And it's like, on one hand, and you know what, maybe because I'm so jaded and been screwed over so many times by Scientology that it's just hard for me to accept that they're really like trying to turn the corner or maybe handle things differently. But here's the thing I want to point out, and I want to make very clear. Scientology is not saying this to people because they want people to have better relationships with their families. If they did, they'd have been saying this the whole freaking time. Scientology is saying this to people to protect themselves. They're tired of hearing about it. It's showing up all over social media. I lost my child to Scientology. My adults, blah, 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 whatever the story is. We don't see them anymore. They don't come around because Scientologists, after a while, when the blinders really come on and the mind control really starts to take over, what happens is you realize, oh my gosh, my priorities are out of whack. How am I spending every Sunday having dinner with my whole family? I should be on course. I should be clearing the planet. I should be doing all of these things. So for Scientology now to hold a briefing and go like, hey, stop being such crappy kids to your parents, whether you're an adult or whatever, and just do normal things with your family and don't talk about Scientology. I've just never heard that. But don't get it twisted. It is only because they're in trouble. Continue to hold their feet to the fire. Continue to expose the harmful practice of disconnection in Scientology. We're not going to slow down and stop talking about it because it looks like they might, in this one instance, be trying to do the right thing, even if it's for the wrong reasons. The wrong reasons, because it's to protect them. We're tired of hearing about it. Is probably, David Miscavige's stance on it. I don't want to hear about one more. They don't prioritize families over Scientology. I know this. That has not changed. That has not changed at all. Kathy says, Ruth Ann, is a PR stunt. They don't know what to do with all the bad press. That is true. And that is part of it. They think that they can do this. And I will say this, I'm still happy to see and hear it, because if these Scientologists actually listen and go, oh, okay, I'm going to start going to family dinner. I'm going to start spending time with my parents and talking about things that are not Scientology, like a normal person outside of Scientology. My siblings, whatever it is, I'm going to start showing up for holiday things. This is a good thing. And maybe these Scientologists, by getting more connected with their family and their relationships outside of Scientology, might help in opening their eyes to all of the things that they're missing. The beauty of family, even when it's not so beautiful. Those are your people doing things outside of Scientology. So I cannot wait to see more of what happens with that. I'm telling you, that one really made me go, what? It's good that they're doing that. But got to keep up the pressure, keep up the bad press, keep up complaining about it and raising awareness about it. And let's hope that they continue to encourage Scientologists to be in touch with their families. We shall see. Marcy says, yes, sitting and talking to family could make some people start thinking for the better. Yeah, very much so. Realize what you're missing. Let's take a look at an interview that was done on a channel that's new to me. Worldviews is the name of the channel. Did an interview with Michael, a former Scientologist. Let's just take a look at a clip and we shall discuss.
Part of the whole point of Scientology is to sort of like always be in control of your emotions. And I think the way that they do that is by suppressing them. And from what I've learned through my own like therapy journeys and mental health journeys, I'm very interested in like psychology and mental health. And I feel a lot personally from traumas due to therapy and mental health. But one of the things I've learned is that like if you bottle up emotions, it kind of fucks you up. And I think that they're like very much taught to bottle up emotions. And I also think that that's kind of like a pretty smart way to control people, because if they're not allowed to express their emotions outside of the church, which by the way, that's one of the services that they offer, is like it's therapy, except it's therapy that they will use to blackmail you with.
That's right. And he's referred to Scientology auditing, where everything you say in that auditing session is written down, especially the juicy stuff, the exact time, the exact place, the exact form, the exact event. And when you decide like, hey, you know what, I'm leaving Scientology and I'm taking my family with me, or whatever that looks like for you, they immediately grab all of your folders, your pre-clear folders, your auditing folders, and your ethics folders. And somebody goes through them and they make note of all the juicy, nasty things you've done, or the things, let's be real, that Scientology thinks are juicy and nasty. Meanwhile, the rest of the world is in 2024 is going, yeah, stay out of people's bedrooms when they're adults and it's consensual. Okay, so he really called it out about that. Really called it out about that. The whole interview, I'm going to go ahead and link that down below so you guys can see the whole thing. But what he's saying is true. It is true. And you know what's interesting? You know, I was reading through, there is one of the forms that you have to sign in Scientology, the one that basically forces you into arbitration. Every time you do a Scientology course or service, you have to sign this form again. You initial these spots and you sign it. And I took a closer look at it recently, and I was like, wow, they multiple times say how your files, your folders do not belong to you. You are acknowledging this, that now and forever till the end of time, they do not belong to you. They are not yours. Isn't that interesting? How is it that your files with your information, why when you leave Scientology, couldn't you have those? I mean, wouldn't that make sense? Hey, you know what? I'm leaving Scientology. As part of leaving, I would like my files back. I would like that. Because why should they have them? How does Scientology own your deepest, darkest thoughts, traumatic experiences, and whatnot? How do they own that? But they do. They're going to hold on to it until the end of time. So someone goes through and collects these things and creates what's called a dead agent pack, which is a way that they think they're going to discredit you. So if you don't have enough juicy stuff, they will make things up, as they did in my situation. They completely made things up whole cloth that were so unbelievable by other Scientologists that would happen. Like, one of the things they made up was that my husband at the time had cheated. Nobody who knows my husband at the time would believe that. And it would be completely out of character for him. And it's not true. Nothing like that happened. He did not do that. And that's the narrative that they told a few people in the Twin Cities, thinking that they wouldn't then speak to us because we're so horribly out ethics. You know what happened? 2 other Scientology families walked out the door. Families. We're like, yeah, no, if you're saying this about Natalie and her now ex-husband, what are you going to say about us? What are you saying about other people? We know for a fact you're lying about this. What else are you lying about? They already had disagreements about all the money, all the financial demands, and they walked. They walked. 2 of them were public, who had a couple kids. The other one were staff members who had children, who are now free out of Scientology and doing amazing, by the way. I'm still in touch with them. They're doing fantastic since leaving Scientology. So yeah, there's Scientology for you. Now let's take a look at that clip I was telling you about from Rosemary Brown, Mike Brown's mom, who was a Sea Organization member and experienced elder abuse and financial abuse. They took this woman's credit cards, jacked them up, used them for other Scientologists, and left her to clean up the mess. So let's see. I think I got a couple clips here to look at. Let's take a look.
So me being a former
And this is Mike Brown speaking to his mother, Rosemary.
Sea Org member that's been declared a suppressive person, were you scared that I was there? Were you scared to see me? Like, what feelings?
It's such a, I know, it's so hard. It was like I was so happy to see you, yet I was not, if anybody in Scientology was in the room, I couldn't express my.
Which, by the way, let's put some ones and some hearts in the chat for Rosemary. Every time I hear her speak, I just want to hug this woman.
Feelings on how I.
And for Mike Brown, of course, too.
Felt that you were there and how much I loved you and everything. It was like, it's like this torn feelings of, I don't know how to express it. I was so happy to see you and I couldn't believe that you came. And
were you afraid of me at all?
no,
Okay.
I'm not afraid of you at all.
So
she had to, because Scientology handlers were around, suppress her emotions. What she felt for Mike Brown, her son, him being there, she was so amazed that he came and he showed up. And of course, Mike Brown, with help, was able to get her out of there. And now she's living a completely different life and she's free from Scientology. But can you imagine? And thank you guys for all the hearts. I'm hoping she sees this. I know she knows, and want her and Mike to know more too, how much we support them. We appreciate them. How much we appreciate her coming forward with her story and being vocal about it. Because this is happening to other elderly people. Mike Brown did a video the other day, and he has a list. He has documentation. He has documented elder abuse and the financial abuse of the elderly in the Sea Organization, and has named the registrars who are doing this. So it's amazing what he was able to document. and have that come out. And Rosemary's story is so heartbreaking, but it's so important to changing this so that it doesn't happen. How many years have we been talking about Scientology disconnection and families talking about how family members in Scientology aren't in touch with them? And now there was this briefing saying, hey, y'all, call your family, call your mom, call your grandma, be a better family member. So maybe, hopefully, we continue to shed light, especially on the financial abuses with the elderly. And by the way, this is done to even non-elderly Scientologists, but it is especially egregious when it's done to elderly, vulnerable Sea Organization members who dedicated their entire life to forwarding the aims of Scientology, thinking that they were creating a war without insanity, without war, without crime. And that wasn't the situation. That wasn't what Scientology was doing. Actually, the opposite. Scientology has created and perpetuates quite a bit of crime and insanity and war. It is the opposite. If you cannot, Scientology, create that within your own organization, how in the world does anyone believe you can create it outside of that? That is something I asked myself as a Scientologist in my 35 years in. I knew how crazy it was. I saw a lot of what was happening, but you're so gaslit into believing that what you're seeing is not what you think you're seeing, that what you're seeing is somebody else's out ethics, somebody else's situation. It's not actually Scientology. Yet, when you leave Scientology and you start connecting with people all over the world who are sharing that they saw the same thing, then you become empowered and realize that this organization had a hold over you and they no longer do. They don't. Scientology actually has no power over anybody unless you give it to them. I think it's like that with everything in life and everyone. Unless you give up that power, unless you assign that power to them or to somebody else, they don't have it over you. There's really nothing. This is an organization that since its inception, people, former members, and either people outside of who were never in Scientology have been speaking on and talking on. And having Rosemary now share these things through her son, Mike Brown, is something that we'll be able to have to use to help educate other people. And my hope is always that in educating about the harmful practices of Scientology, that we can raise awareness about other cults as well. Because in my mind, if you educate somebody on what to watch for when it comes to being a victim, especially if you're a vulnerable person to Scientology, that works with other cults as well. Harry says, hey, how do you know a Scientologist is lying? Their mouth is moving and noise is coming out of it. Now, in all fairness, not all Scientologists, because Scientologists generally are good people. Their desire to help is being misdirected. They're being given false information. We all can only operate in ways that are, we make decisions based on information we're given. If the information we're given is incorrect, we cannot make a logical decision. We can only make decisions, good decisions, based on the validity and the correctness and the accurateness of the information that we're taking in. And Scientology is like next level when it comes to propaganda, North Korea level, moving things around to make it look like you're the crazy one. The gaslighting is incredible, incredible. Let's take a look at another clip here from Mike's mom, Rosemary.
My room didn't have any windows.
No
We
windows.
just had
So she's talking about the room that she had been in previously.
one door.
Okay.
And then you could go to the back part of the other part of the second part of the room.
Mhm.
And it had a window back in there, but our section was like a bunker. It was just cement walls. I don't know what it used to be.
Sounds like an old mechanical room. or
Yeah,
something.
but it didn't have any windows or anything.
And then, so what about like fresh air and stuff? You're saying that you're having a heart condition, problems with O2 and all that. What was did you guys have like central air? Like, was it fresh air coming
No,
in?
like I bought an air conditioner and Suzanne helped me pay. She didn't even pay half. I paid for most of it. And she just gave me some money for it. But there was an air conditioner, a small one. That
Like
we
a
put in
portable floor.
a portable floor one in the front part where
A little portable air conditioner, not fresh air. Nothing like that. And she paid for it as well. If that's not exploiting the elderly, I don't know what is. And there are families out there that don't know that their family member who has been in Scientology, locked away in the Sea Organization for decades, is in one of these facilities. I looked at the list. Mike Brown shares the list that Rosemary came up with names of the people. And a few of them I recognize. One of them was a former, I think she was the commanding officer of the Pacific, of the estate organization way back when. And she's in one of those facilities now because these people are getting older. What's going to happen to them? There aren't, as we talk about all the time, Scientology doesn't have the new second, third generation Scientologists as consistently as they did in my generation. I am an older second generation Scientologist at 54. I am not the oldest. In fact, I spoke to someone the other day who is in her early 70s and is a second generation Scientologist. Her people go way back, go way back. So it's just fantastic that Rosemary and others are continuing to talk about this and continuing to expose this. Because if we can put pressure, Scientology is not going to do the right thing because it's the right thing. But they will take action, as we saw earlier in that video with Aaron at Growing Up in Scientology, when it's a public relations flap, when it's the biggest complaint, where it's the thing they hear the most about. And there are so many of them. There are so many things that we're raising the alarm about: the financial abuses in Scientology, the exploitation that way, the elderly, the children, all of the things, forcing people to stay in the Sea Organization when they don't want to be, not just letting people go, harassment. I mean, on and on and on and on. And my point of view is, whatever your connection is to any of those stories, shout them from the rooftop, because it's not going to be just one thing that brings down Scientology, that stops the human rights abuses in Scientology or other cults. It's death by 1,000 cuts. It is getting each of those stories, because people connect in different ways. Somebody might hear a story about elderly and abuse in Scientology and not connect with it, but they might hear it about the children and they connect with that. You see what I'm saying? Some people might connect with hearing the stories of former members, but there's so many different types of people that different people will connect with different things. So thank you guys for continuing to elevate those voices of survivors of Scientology. Every time you like a video, every time you subscribe to one of our channels and you watch the videos, that is showing your support and helping, and it helps to get that message and the word out. Later on today, and let's see, at 5 p.m. Central, I'm going to be sitting down and doing an interview with Mark Bunker, otherwise known as Wise Beard Man. Mark Bunker has been around since the Lisa McPherson days. He held a city council position in Clearwater, the belly of the beast. So I'm sure we're going to have a ton of questions from Mark Bunker. On his channel, he has been restoring into 4K multiple videos from decades of protesting and exposing Scientology. So I'm sure many of you are going to have some good questions. We're going to do it live at 5 p.m. Central today. If you don't catch it live, please catch it on the replay. Go ahead and throw your questions in the comments if you don't make it live, and I'll try to get those answered. If not by Mark, maybe from myself as well. So I hope to see you guys there. That's going to be later on today. In the meantime, everybody, I hope you get out and have an amazing cult-free day.